Hi, I'm Jen Holtz, Associate State Director for Outreach at AARP Maryland. As we continue our efforts to support all caregivers of children during the pandemic by streaming our Lunch and Learn interviews through the rest of 2021, we will talk to special guests who can provide you as parents, grandparents, and guardians with practical ideas, tips, tools, and resources for distance learning and helping kids thrive during the pandemic. Whether your child is in school virtually, in person, or a hybrid of both, keep joining us over the coming weeks to hear from our guests with useful information about helping our kids to do the best. Please also visit our AARP Maryland Facebook page to see past Lunch and Learn interviews with information to support you and your kids during this unprecedented time. Today, we are excited to have Enoch Pratt Free Library featured for the second time in a row. We are joined by LaTrisha Milton, Young Adult Services Coordinator, and Programs and Outreach Department Specialist at the Enoch Pratt Free Library in Baltimore. You will discuss, LaTrisha, with us today, the resources that are available for our older kids in middle and high school. So LaTrisha, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Did you catch that? Sorry, I think our connection was a little wonky. Can you describe your role at the library for us?
Sure. So as Jen said, I'm the Young Adult Services Coordinator for the Enoch Pratt Free Library system. And that basically means that I'm responsible for all programming that are related to our teen audience. That's our middle school and high school ages. So it's everything from our young adult writers' lives to Book Baltimore and a few other things that we'll discuss today.
That's great. That's great. So what kind of resources are available for students in middle and high school?
So we have a lot of online resources, especially since we're in the midst of a pandemic. We have homework helpers. We have lots of databases that can assist students with, if they're not able to get to the library, they can go online and download the books that they need. And so there are a plethora of things that we have available. We have had a very great need for internet access since the pandemic. And so we have hotspots that are available for checkout for students. And we have tablets as well, but those, of course, went very quickly. So you have to get on the waiting list for that.
Sure, that's great. So can you elaborate a little bit more about the homework helpers? Are those live tutors, or how does that work?
Sure. So there are two ways you can participate in this. One of them is a database where you can go into the database and access live tutor help. We also have partnered with Morgan State University, and some of their students are available every week for a certain period of time after school to assist our teens that have access to our Discord platform, which is a platform we created at the very beginning of the pandemic to give teens a virtual space to gather together.
That's fantastic. I love the idea of working with the local schools in Morgan State. That's wonderful. So wonderful. Can you talk a little bit about Book Baltimore? What is it, and who can participate in that?
Sure. So Book Baltimore is happening right now. It launched last month. This is a partnership between T. Rowe Price, Enoch Pratt Free Library, and Baltimore City Public Schools. It's geared towards 7th and 8th graders. And every year for the past 3 years, we've had this program. We select a book that kind of highlights some of the issues or topics that are prevalent in Baltimore City, and Baltimore City Public Schools purchases copies of that particular book for every 7th and 8th grader. They read this book, the author comes to visit, the library hosts programming related to the book. We bring the author in, we partner with community organizations to kind of reinforce the themes in the book. This year's read is We Speak for Ourselves by Baltimore's own Dee Watkins. It was very appropriate for this year, considering everything that has been happening, especially in the area of social justice. And so we have partnered with several organizations in the city, such as Wide Angle Youth Media. We have a magazine making workshop that's going to be starting next week with True Laurels Magazine. We've partnered with the Model Lyric, who is going to create a production based on one of the essays in the book. So there's a lot of creative programming coming out of this for this year.
That's fantastic. Way to foster the love of reading in those kids. That's great. So, can you tell us a little bit about the Read Woke Challenge?
Yeah, so Read Woke is something that I'm really excited about. Actually, this week is launch week. It started November 1st, and this is for all teens, middle and high school. This is a reading challenge that challenges young people to read books to become acquainted with the diverse voices in our communities. It's good to read books that reflect who we are and where we come from, but it's something different when you can dive into a story about a culture or a type of people that you probably wouldn't have known much about had you not read a book about them. And so we have a suggested reading list of about 20 books. There are about 10 categories. And our challenge to the young people is to read 4 of the 20 books. And if they do that, they will receive a t-shirt that says Pratt Teens Read Woke. They will receive a free book that highlights a diverse voice. And we're going to ask them to take a picture with one or all of the books that they've read so we can highlight it on our website.
That sounds great. That's really wonderful. So, lastly, before we wrap up, can you remind us of how caregivers of kids and the kids themselves can access all of these great resources you've talked about today?
Absolutely. You can find out more about everything that I talked about and more on our website, prattlibrary.org. If you scroll down, there's a section just for teens. It will tell you everything that's going on in the teen department. It will highlight books that are featured books, up and coming reads, and the bigger programs that are being highlighted for this season. So be sure to check that out. There are also databases that are highlighted as well that students and their caretakers can take advantage of.
That's great. Thank you so much, LaTrisha.
Thank you.
We just continue to be impressed by the many awesome resources for our kids and their caregivers that you guys are offering. So I want to remind everyone that the Enoch Pratt Free Library system is available statewide in Maryland, so anyone can benefit from these great tools. Thank you again. Please continue to tune in every other Wednesday through December for tips and tools on caring for your children during the pandemic. Our next Lunch and Learn interview will take place November 18th at 12 p.m. Thank you and see you then.